today, I'm really excited to introduce a new product that we have. It's new to the world. It's not new to us because been in development for a while. But we just call it the AmpClamp, and it's a real simple, basic, non-invasive tool, and it has massive application across the oil field in anything that has a motor, anything we can measure. And I'm going to walk through this little presentation called AmpClamp and a pumping unit. This is a recent install. David Lloyd's on the line. He was out on location. Jeremy was on location, and so anyway, we'll roll through this. The Darlin 14 is a pumping well. Has a pumping unit, 114 pumping unit, and the three of us, David, Jeremy, and I, went to the location, met the pumper, and we installed the AmpClamp. And this is actually through the 27th a rendition. We could tell right here, this is when we turned the well on. This is a funny little story. The well wasn't off. The pumper wasn't sufficiently tooled in, and he unplugged the AmpClamp to plug his chemical pump in. And so that was a little learning curve we had to do. But you can see when we got back into the scheme of things, here are the readings. And what you're seeing here is minimum amp draw, 10 amps, maximum amp draw, 20 amps. And you'll see in a minute how this matters. And then these are the up and down measure. And if you can imagine a pumping unit pumping 6 to 12 strokes per minute, that's 6 to 12 cycles per minute of peak load and minimum load. And that's what we're doing. But the most important question in anybody's mind is the unit running or not running. And that's pretty basic, because there's nobody in the oil business that hasn't experienced a well that they thought was running 6, 8, 10 barrels of oil a day. And a week later, 2 weeks later, they found out a motor's gone out. I got a fuse problem, electric lead line. Well, and you can just hear the operator say, well, why didn't somebody tell me that? It's unbelievable. And so at a basic level, the operator can check his production, his lease every day, or in the case of a friend of mine, Darlene Wallace, her lease. And and then you can guide yourself on what you're going to do that day. So here's a one-day snapshot right here, and you can see again 10 amps minimum, 20 amps maximum, and these are the cycles. So that's running well within its boundary range. And then there's no mystery right here. The well was turned off. All right, so let's dig down into the weeds a little bit. Here is the motor plate. You can see it's an oil well pump motor. It's designed, it's a 15 horsepower. And then see right here, amps 40. Depending on whether it's single phase, three phase. This motor right now is, remember, the high of 20 and the low of 10. That's the range that this motor is set to operate in. And so if I'm operating that, what does it tell me? My motor's working just fine. If I start to see peak amps go above that, do I have a sticking pump? Do I have a scaling problem? If I start to see minimums drop, do I have a rod part? This is a very simple, basic device. It won't tell you what, but it'll tell you something. And then you get on the phone, you call your pumper and say, go out, make an inspection, and give me a report by the end of the day. So here's a little history. Everybody likes history. We installed it on the 16th. We actually moved in on the well on the 19th to replace the stuck pump. So this was not an accident. I wanted to get ahead of the curve and then watch my run time. But Here was something we didn't anticipate. Anything ever happen in the oil field that you didn't anticipate? We ran the new pump on, the AmpClamp was working, uh, and then look at here, the 27th, an ice storm hit. What happens to electricity in an ice storm? And then, and I'm going to show you a slide in a minute, on the 29th, we were returned to production. So that's a little history and a rundown. And again, running, not running, here's your ice storm. And then right here, this is when we were able to start everything back up. Oh, by the way, this is the most important thing. That started back up on a Sunday evening. Is a half a day's production important? Is 3 days production important? You know, it's all money. In most people's world, you would have waited until Monday morning at a minimum. Maybe you wouldn't get there till the afternoon to go get that well started up. And so look what happened. Right here on Sunday morning, I knew that the production was restored. And I didn't have to do a fire drill on Monday morning. So here is our fine tuning. Here's where we installed it. The unit was it ran, it was unplugged. You know, this is the little event I told you about where the pumper was confused. Now it's running. Here's the ice storm back on running, and you can see that's pretty continuous. Now look at this. This period here, on off, we're setting a time clock, and now we're fine tuning the well. We're adjusting time to run. You're looking for maximum run time to produce the maximum amount of production, but you don't want to run when it's pumping dry because you're burning electricity for no productivity. So we're able to fine tune this well, and this is what a big picture looks like. Running continuously, we set the time clock, and then notice here at the end, see the gaps, the runtime gets longer. We're able to measure our production and add time to it. So we're adding time, which is productive, but not burning electricity when we're not productive. This is, and you can either look at this picture or you can have the pumper describe it to you. All right. And it's the old joke of, what does it describe an elephant? Well, it depends on which body part you grab, right? So that's to a blind man. All right. So here's our conclusion with the AmpClamp. Running, not running. Amp draw, is it drawing the peak draw, the minimum draw? Over time, it'll show any gradual increase in amp draw, which would show sticking pump, paraffin. It will also show a decrease in amp draw, parted rods, slipping, warm pump. This may be gradual, not immediate. And then it sets up potential issues for inspection by the pumper that he can address on a timely manner. So it's a real simple, basic device that provides a tremendous amount of information. And I saw a special over the weekend on Apollo 13, and Gene Kranz, who was head of mission control, they were trying to figure out how to get the capsule back to Earth, and they were running out of oxygen. And he had a great quote. He said, "Folks, let's get this right. Let's don't make things worse by guessing." And that's everything to well caddy, to go from guessing to knowing. So here's what we do. We measure it, we look at it and analyze, and then we make a prediction. We send people out, you go to work, and it's all based on real data.